I'm Lily Whalen. I'm your Community Development Director for the City of Pinole. Thank you so much for having us here again today. We have a very special presentation for you today from the State Contractors Licensing Board, and then also the Contra Costa Senior Legal Services. So we have Kira Hall from the State Licensing Board and Robin Courtney from Contra Costa Senior Legal Services. And they are going to be talking to you today about how to avoid scams when you hire contractors and best practices in hiring contractors. So without further ado, I'll welcome up Kira. Thank you for your attention.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. All right, I know everyone's very excited about their lunch, but I've got lots of valuable information for you today. Can you hear me okay in the back? Okay, thank you. I see some thumbs up. So again, my name is Kira Hall, and I am the Outreach Coordinator and Speaker for the Senior Scam Stopper Program at the Contractors Board. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do. And today I'm going to be giving you lots of valuable tips and information regarding how to avoid construction fraud for those of you here who are homeowners, what to know before hiring contractors, and how to avoid scams. So I know it's an incredibly exciting topic, right? Your lunch might feel a lot more exciting, but the goal today is for all of you to walk away with at least something really valuable to you. I do these presentations statewide. I love what I do, and I'm happy to see that there's people here to learn today. We are the Contractor State License Board. We license the construction industry, so we license contractors to work in California. And by licensing, we are able to regulate the construction industry. So that is what we do. We are the agency that regulates the construction industry. And we also are a consumer protection agency and provide resources for the consumers of California who hire contractors. So in short terms, we are a dual purpose agency that protects consumers and licenses contractors. And we've actually been around since 1929 with this purpose. So we've been around the block a bit. And to get started, so again, this is our Senior Scam Stopper presentation. We partner with city organizations, legislative offices, nonprofit, and community-based organizations statewide, and have been doing this presentation since the late 90s. So this is also something we've been doing a while, and believe it or not, I am older than the presentation. So my goal is to get a few people to smile today, because the more you enjoy it, the more you're likely to learn, and that's the goal. So today I'm going to talk about why seniors in particular are often targeted in scams and in construction scams. And I'm going to go over some scam tactics that will be really good to know. And I'm going to teach you a bit about what should you know before you hire a contractor. I'm going to go over a few types of construction jobs that are also very important to know that we see a lot of scams happen with. And I am going to go over how to file a complaint, should you need it, and how to check a license on our website, both very valuable resources, as well as I'm going to go over some resources for seniors, and we do have pamphlets and brochures available at the table, should you like to take anything home with you. All right, so let's talk a little bit about why seniors are often targeted in construction scams and what you should know ahead. So seniors are a population that scammers are aware, right, that they're aware of the population that they're targeting. So with that, comes the knowledge that seniors are more likely to be polite, be trusting, give someone the time of day, shake a hand, have a conversation. But also, many of you might spend a lot of time alone, you may live alone, and you also may have accrued wealth, social security, money in your home that maybe you've had for 40, 50 years. And all of these things can unfortunately make seniors targets because scammers have become a lot more advanced and they're aware of all these things. And we don't want you to be taken advantage of or manipulated. And when it comes to scams, so believe it or not, scammers are attracted to any amount of money that they can get their hands on. So don't think that they're not going to go the extra mile or put in the effort to scam you, even if it's over a really small amount of money, because what they're going to do is if they can determine that they can get even a small amount from someone, they're not going to end there. They're only going to start there, right? Which is what we don't want. And again, just as we're taught as kids, right? Do not feel pressure to answer your door to strangers. I don't know how many of you, I know there's still a lot of bustling and fun lunch stuff. How many of you have had solar salesmen come to your door? With a show of hands, right? So this is something that happens a lot, especially in California. We've got a lot of sun. So don't be afraid to say no. You're not a rude person for having boundaries when there's people at your door trying to sell you services that you either don't want or you're not ready for. Because I'm going to talk a little bit more about solar later, but in all reality, for the most part, a lot of the great companies out there that are going to be offering really great services for solar or for any service, they're not always the ones sending salesmen to your door because they're busy. They have a great clientele and they might be booked out for projects for the next 3 months. So usually you would do the research and reach out to them, right, to get a quote, to go over information. Never feel pressure to hire the first person who gives you a quote or the person who's knocking down your door trying to sell you a service. And I'll discuss that a little later. And to have a little fun, right, to wake you up a little bit. I know it's early afternoon, but me, at least after lunch, I get the after lunch sleepies. But with a show of hands, how many of you like to watch TV? Right, a lot of us, very fun pastime. So how many of you like to watch crime shows, investigative shows, right? Like, they're very interesting. I watch them too. So I like to bring this example up because when it comes to making cash payments, when someone, particularly like a salesman or someone representing a legitimate business, right, is telling you they can only receive payment in cash. They can't run a card, they can't take a check. It's not a very professional business practice, right? So being asked to pay only in cash can be a huge red flag of a scam because, like the example I gave, so in these investigative shows, what they're doing is they look for records for traceable payments to tie a suspect to a crime. They check phone records, bank records, and when you pay in cash, the payment isn't traceable. It makes it a lot easier for scammers to take your money that way, and it makes it a lot harder for law enforcement or for anyone to try to recover that money. So we don't want you to be in that situation. For the most part, a legitimate construction business should be able to take payments, like I said, via credit or debit card or a check. So something to keep in mind. And I know you're going to get a lot of valuable information today between both of the presentations. So if there's anything you take away from my presentation today, I want it to be what's on this slide because of the importance this information has for consumers. So what's great to know is projects priced at $1,000 or more require that the contractor be licensed. So for those of you who might hire handymen or people to do small jobs around your home, maybe routine landscaping, jobs that would fall under that amount, they are not regulated by CSLB. They would not have a license. Handyman, there is no handyman license. So that implies unlicensed work below the limit. So those of you who might hire the people to do smaller jobs, they're likely not going to be regulated through us. So anything at $1,000 or more, they need to have a license to do that specific type of work. Because the benefit to hiring someone who's licensed is if something goes wrong or you have any issues, we can intervene and assist. CSLB has investigative centers across the state and 2 complaint centers, one in Northern and one in Southern California, where we help consumers with issues they have with contractors or with reports of unlicensed work or scams. Get that sales pitch in writing if you have any projects coming up or are working with contractors. A really great verbal agreement and a handshake gives you no legal protection, and documentation does. So good to know. And down payments. So money that is paid to the contractor ahead of the work being done or a step of the work being done cannot exceed 10% or $1,000 of the total contract price. And that is whichever is less. So how many of you have ever worked or hired a contractor where you paid in steps, in progress payments? Right? Okay, so it's a pretty common way to make payments on especially larger, more involved jobs. So progress payments would still be subject to the down payment limit. So we don't want you paying more upfront than this amount per step, right? Because this helps protect consumers from paying a bunch of money up front to a contractor and then they abandon the job or they don't complete it. We unfortunately see that happen way more than it should. So this is why we want you all to be in the know and be prepared ahead. And when it comes to, okay, I'm getting all this information, I want to hire or I need to hire a contractor soon, what do I really need to know? So get at least 3 bids, shop around, take your time to do your research. I had someone come up to me at an event, I do these a lot all over the state, so I had someone speak to me recently and say, you tell people to only get 3 bids, I get 5. 3's not enough, I don't know what you're talking about. And what I like to say to that is, good on you. Get however much information you feel that you need to make an informed decision that you feel confident about, whether that's 3 or 5 or more. And ask to see their pocket license and photo ID, which is over here. This is what a pocket license will look like. Sorry, I'm very tall with long arms, so I keep doing this. But later I'm going to show you how to put a contractor's license number into our website to check their license, which is a phenomenal resource. And also verify that they have their workers' comp and liability insurance in place if they have employees, because when this isn't in place and someone from the company, right, they send a crew of guys out and any of them, if they might get injured on your property, the homeowner is liable for that injury when that isn't in place, which is why it's required. And like I said, get a detailed written contract. If you ever need to file a complaint, the more information you have to provide us, the better it is. And don't let payments get ahead of the work or pay for anything that's not up to your standards. So if you end up in a situation where the work is not being done at the time it was agreed to, or it is, but it's not turning out the way you thought, talk to your contractor first before making additional payments. And again, so you're going to see me remind you about the down payment limit because it's incredibly valuable to know. It's crazy how many of us don't know all the regulations out there that are designed to protect consumers. So the down payment limit cannot exceed 10% or $1,000 of the total contract price, whichever is less. And I'll give an example of a type of job in a little bit that this is very relevant to. So keep all your project documents in a place you can easily access, like I said, should you need it. And that would include photos, emails, text messages, the contract, any receipts. I know it sounds like a lot, but it's great to have it because you never know when you need it. And then all consumers. So you do have 4 years from the date of the construction to file a complaint. So sometimes people realize later on that it didn't go the way you wanted or you have concerns. So you do have that amount of time to reach out to us and you can file a complaint and we can do an investigation. And ages 65 and up do have a 5-day right to cancel a contract should you need it. Sometimes people will sign a contract and go, oh my gosh, I did that too soon, or I don't feel good about this. So you do have that time. Anyone younger than 65 does have 3 days to cancel the contract. And I'm briefly going to talk about ADUs. So for those of you who are familiar, they're not relevant to everyone in every community, but we talk about them because of the relevance to seniors and the relevance to consumers in general. So ADUs, if you're not familiar, are accessory dwelling units, and these are additional living spaces built either onto someone's existing home or structure or built detached onto their property. I bring this up in a senior presentation because these have become a way for people to accommodate aging loved ones close to home with some independence. And unfortunately, we have seen a lot of complaints where people have, particularly seniors, I've talked to multiple victims of this situation where they pay a bunch of money up front outside of the limit and the job gets abandoned. We've seen way more of it than should happen, right? And we want to see that decrease. So something to be wary of. And if any of you genuinely want to have a job like this done, don't be afraid to do a little bit of your research on your own so you know that when you go to hire someone, you can ask them questions and make sure that they're properly versed to do this type of work, because building a new structure or attaching something to an existing structure, both of those are very involved jobs, right? There's plumbing, there's electrical, there's all kinds of things. And you want to trust that the person doing the work knows the zoning laws, the local regulations, because city law, county law can vary across the state and be very specific. So you want to make sure that they know how to provide all that, and you can trust them to get the job done in its entirety. And again, so this is part of why the down payment limit is so important, like I mentioned. And as of, I believe, last September, there was legislation passed to include ADUs as home improvement jobs. So this down payment limit applies to all jobs that are home improvement. So essentially anything you would have done in or around your home. All right, and briefly I'm going to talk about solar as well, like I mentioned, because in general, no true service is entirely free, and be very wary of the people knocking down your door advertising free solar. Because if it's free and every way, no strings attached, why are they high pressure trying to sell, right, a free service to you at your door, and it's only available today, right? You can't call back tomorrow, it's on the spot. Be very, very wary of that. If you genuinely want solar, do your research and reach out to companies individually. If you ever have people approach you and say that they're part of either the state or a separate nonprofit who's offering free solar programs, there are some legitimate programs like that in California, but they are few and far between. And oftentimes they still have qualification or income requirements. They're not just free across the board to anyone. So don't be afraid to take a moment to think critically and think, is this too good to be true? Because if it feels too good to be true, and unfortunately it probably is. So something to be mindful of, and just as you would with any type of construction project, check the license ahead online and make sure you understand that contract in your own terms. And what I mean by that is, I know it can be such a pain to look over that whole contract, right? It's in tiny print, it's not in easily understandable English, and it can be very confusing. So don't be afraid to ask your contractor before you sign it if the payment schedule doesn't make sense, if the timeline doesn't make sense, if there's language that you don't understand, right? A good contractor will take the time to go over it with you. How many of you have signed construction project contracts where you were given an iPad to sign on or an electronic tablet? Are any of you familiar with that? Okay, well, you're going to learn about it. So we see this happen a lot now, where salespeople, to come to do the initial signing of the contract, they'll either give you an iPad or an electronic device to sign the contract on. So don't be afraid to ask for either an emailed copy or a physical copy of the contract so you can take the time to review it. Don't feel pressure to just sign your life away without reviewing the contract. Because ideally, like I said, there's phenomenal contractors out there who will do great work. We just want you to make sure that you avoid the ones who scam or try to take advantage. All right, and then briefly, I'm going to discuss if you have been scammed, if you do need to file a complaint with us. This is the information. You can call us. You can file a complaint directly online. For those of you who can see, I know it might be a little far in the back, but this is the front page of our website. You can file a complaint directly online. You can call or email us as well. I do have a pamphlet additionally here with me today on construction complaints. If any of you would like it, feel free to ask me after. All right, and before I conclude, real quick, I'm going to show you how to check a license on our website. It's a great resource for any of you who may have jobs coming up or for who may need to hire a contractor. So we have a few QR codes. If you would like to scan them, it will take you directly to our license check. You can also access it from the front page of our website. And because we are on the topic of scams today, so the QR codes I have, they will not ask for your credit card information, and they will actually take you where they say it will. These are real trustworthy QR codes. All right, so when you go to look up this information, so you can input into our license check page either a license number, the name of the person on the license, the name of the company, or you can also check with a home improvement salesperson name or number. And what a home improvement salesperson is they have a separate license through CSLB just to sign, do the salesperson portion of the job. So they'll be the one who will likely come to have you sign the contract and to go over the beginning details. So they are licensed only to sell the service on behalf of a licensed company. So when you work with what we call an HIS salesperson, you want to make sure that their salesperson license is in good standing and the company's license that they're representing is also in good standing. All right, and when you go to look this information up, this is what you'll see. It's going to give you a profile of this contractor. And what's important to know is even if their license is in good standing and they have their workers' comp and their bond information and everything is good to go, you also want to check to verify that they are licensed to do the particular type of work that you're hiring them to do. The construction industry that we license is huge. So we have 45 different classifications that we license and a bunch of subclassifications under that. So they can't just have any random license, let's say a landscaping license or a plumbing license, if you're hiring them to repair your roof or do some kind of kitchen remodel, right? If you're hiring them to do remodeling, they need to have the type of license that can do that. Because when we license them, they have to take exams specific to that trade. So hiring someone licensed in their trade means that they've gone through a certain amount of experience and training to be able to properly provide that service. So you want to make sure that they're not trying to work outside of what they're licensed to do. And as well, this example doesn't have one, but if they've had prior violations against them or former complaints, as long as those investigations are closed, it will show that on there as well, which can be good to know, right? All right, and again, these are our resources. We have a lot of goodies for you available at the back table if you would like to grab anything with you. And I believe after both of us speak, we will be doing Q&As for those of you who might have any questions. So, sorry, real quick before I conclude, these are our final contact information details for those of you who are interested. I'm happy to provide them later as well. But this is our general email, my email, for our outreach program if you have questions about the presentation. And we also have the senior page of our website that has a ton of great resources and our call center number. So thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I'm going to turn it over. Thank you, everyone.
All right, let's thank Kira again for her presentation. And welcome up Robin Courtney. Robin is an attorney with the Contra Costa Senior Legal Services.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming or staying for this presentation. Let's see. Today, I want to talk to you about current trends in scams. Scams affect all of us, no matter how old we are, but they are particularly targeting of seniors. First of all, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself and my firm. I work for Contra Costa Senior Legal Services. We are a legal aid law firm that provides free legal services to seniors who live in Contra Costa County and are 60 or older. The main areas of law that we practice are eviction defense, elder abuse. We help seniors with consumer issues, consumer debt issues, and we create planning documents such as the Advanced Healthcare Directive, the Durable Power of Attorney, and Simple Wills, which are all very important documents that we all should have in place. So the first type of scam I want to talk to you about is the cryptocurrency scam. Now, cryptocurrency has kind of died down, the popularity of it, but the scammers are still out there, and they're trying to target seniors to take advantage of you. So one of the things that they do is they try to encourage you to pay things through Bitcoins. So no legitimate business would ever require you to pay in Bitcoin. And they also guarantee, say this is a big investment that you invest in Bitcoin, and they promise you big returns that will never materialize. And these kinds of cryptocurrency scams often come through romance scams, where seniors may meet somebody on social media and they start up a relationship that way. And what the other individual encourages you to do is they've got this great investment knowledge and you should invest in this cryptocurrency. So never mix the two, investments and online dating or romancing. Another type of scam that's very popular is the artificial intelligence scams. And as you know, that's taking off very quickly and is becoming very sophisticated. What the scammer does is, one thing is they use artificial intelligence to create very legitimate sounding and authentic emails and text messages to you. They can also create a deep fake where they seem like they're some very important government official, and use that to trick people into investing or doing something or giving up your hard-earned money. They can easily impersonate your friends, your relatives, and a really popular scam that happened for a while was the grandparent scam, where they would mimic the sound of the grandchild, for example, and it sounded exactly like the grandchild because they did it through AI, and they told the grandparent, I'm in trouble, don't tell anybody. I need you to wire money immediately. And so they touched upon all the elements, which we'll see later, that encouraged the grandparent to give the money, to wire the money, to get the grandchild out of trouble, to not tell the grandchild's parents, for example. And that's one thing that AI can do and has done, so beware. Other types of scams that are going on are student loan scams, because there's all of this disruption in the student loan program and forbearance periods and things like that. Scammers are reaching out and saying things like, for a fee, I'll enter into a special repayment plan for you. You would never pay a fee for that in that way. And so people are getting taken advantage by that as well. There are also online purchase scams where a certain product is advertised on, say, Facebook Market, and the item actually doesn't exist. You purchase it online, you never get it. There's employment scams. Now, many seniors are actually looking for employment, and so they'll apply and they'll go through this interview process, and they'll disclose a lot of personal information that will be used by the scammer later. Or they'll be they'll be hired and they'll be sent a fake, really large paycheck, and they'll be told to refund the difference of what they should have gotten. And there are other types of scams around the employment area. Then again, the voice print scams, because AI can mimic your voice very well, so once they start to interact and talk with you, they can copy that and then use it for all kinds of things, like we have voice recognition now with our banking and things like that. And so, you know, that's another way that we're being scammed. And then I bring it up again, the romance scams. They do happen. They've been, I think I even saw a 60 Minutes episode where they were talking about a romance scam. So romance happens at every age, and the scams happen at every age too. So what the scammers do is they play into the psychology of human beings, basically. And the 4 areas that they manipulate are emotional response, principles of similarity, principle of scarcity, and incremental commitment. So for the emotional response, they try to create a sense of urgency and a stressful environment. And once we are stressed out, our critical thinking kind of shuts down. And so that's the first step. And they keep pushing that and creating this emotional environment. And then they try to make you trust them through the principle of similarity, where some of the information they gather, they'll use and say, oh, I'm like that too, or my birthday's that same day, or I've been there too, or something. And so they start to develop trust through the principle of similarity. And then the principle of scarcity, where you don't want to miss this great opportunity. So invest in my investment scheme so you don't miss out. And so they play into our sense of a principle of scarcity. And then finally, the incremental commitment, where they start out and they'll ask you some fairly trivial questions, and you'll answer them, you know, and then they'll throw in a non-trivial personal question, like where do you bank? And you've already answered all these questions, and so you kind of feel like, well, you question yourself, really. It's like, well, they were trivial, but this doesn't seem trivial, but I feel like I should answer it, but deep down you know you shouldn't. So they play into that as well. Some of the red flags, other than paying attention to those psychological things, is to keep in mind that a scammer is going to be somebody that was unsolicited. You didn't invite them, they invited themselves. They're going to create an emotionally charged situation. So if you find yourself interacting with someone that invited themselves and now it's kind of getting emotional for you, that's a red flag. They're going to use high-pressure tactics and possibly even threats to cause fear in you and to cause you to make a decision right away. They will request or demand money, and this will happen in a variety of different ways. And you may ask them, can you verify who you are? I want to be sure I know who I'm legitimately talking to. And they'll give you resistance to that as well. So those are some additional signs to be aware of. Another very common sign is they are going to ask you to keep it a secret from everyone else. even a family member. So remember the AI that called and said he was the grandchild. And he said, Grandma, don't tell anybody. Don't tell Mom and Dad. You know, that's just one example. But they will always want you to keep it a secret. Or this is a limited, scarce investment. Don't tell anybody else. There's not enough to go around. So they'll also ask you to send money via untraceable methods. For example, the Bitcoin. They're going to ask you to pay in Bitcoin. They're going to ask you to wire transfer, which has no protections for a consumer. Or gift cards, Visa cards, things like that. They're going to ask you to confirm your social security number, but I think by now we all are educated enough that we never ever verify our social security number, but they'll ask you that, or other private information as well. They can threaten you or say, you know, this is a legitimate debt or something, you owe it, you have to pay me and you have to pay me now, wire transfer the money, and cause fear. And the other sign is when you have to pay money to get money, you never should have to pay money to get money. For example, you won a sweepstake, but you have to, you know, hand over the taxes immediately, transfer it to the account, and then we'll deposit the sweepstakes into your account. But the sweepstakes never get deposited. So if you have been scammed, and one thing about if you have, before I go into this, is we kind of have a victim blaming culture where, you know, we feel a lot of shame if we have been scammed, but we shouldn't, because as I went over the psychology, it's really easy to be manipulated, and the scammers are very dedicated to their work. So, and they spend a lot of times and they adjust, and as the circumstances in the community change, their scamming tactics will change, and it's very easy to become a victim. So first of all, if you've been scammed, don't blame yourself and tell other people. So a lot of times when we feel embarrassed of being scammed, we just don't tell people and we keep it to ourselves. But it's important to tell everybody so we can educate all of ourselves. And also, it's important that you report it to the Federal Trade Commission. And at the bottom of the slide there, there's a identitytheft.gov with the Federal Trade Commission where you fill out a report on the incident that happened, the scam, and you will want to have a police report. So talk to your law enforcement, tell them what happened, get a police report, file it with the FTC, pardon me, and then they'll also help you put together a plan to make sure that any vulnerabilities are kind of shored up, and a plan for the future so that you won't potentially be scammed again. And the Federal Trade Commission doesn't prosecute per se, but they do capture all of this information from everybody who reports, and they analyze it to understand what's going on in the country, really, with this scamming, and that helps them assist with providing that information to the people who can protect us. Thank you. If you have been scammed, contact immediately anybody that was involved in it. If it was the bank, contact your banks. If you paid through PayPal, contact PayPal. We don't know who can potentially stop the transfer of the money, so it's important to report it to everybody that potentially was involved in the movement of that money. Like I said, victims should file the complaints in as many places as possible, report it quickly. They'll try to use methods that cannot be reversed, like a wire transfer. and just document everything, report it to the police, use that to file it to the FTC. If you've been scammed through the United States Postal Service, that's a federal offense, and report it to the post office. Resources for seniors at Contra Costa County. We are part of a consortium of other government agencies that have a project called the Elder Abuse Prevention Project, and they involve Family Justice Center. We have one here in Richmond, Contra Costa Senior Legal Services, my firm, the district attorney, the Adult Protective Services, the organization called Empowered Aging, the Contra Costa Behavioral Health, Senior Peer Counseling, and Meals on Wheels Diablo. And as a group, we work to ensure that seniors are not abused. And if one is, we all work together to help rectify it. It's a great team of workers that have been in place for a very long time. And this scamming is a form of elder abuse, targeting seniors. And so this would be something that it could involve one or all of these team members. And if you're involved in some interaction and you're just not sure that it's a scam, call our office and you can talk to an attorney who will gather the facts, and they'll be able to advise you on whether or not that is a scam. And if it's not too far down the road, potentially be able to help you. And that was it. It's fairly short and sweet.
Let's thank Robin for her presentation. And we're going to open it up for questions now. If you have a question, raise your hand and I'll bring over the microphone to you. Anyone have any questions? Yes.
I have a question about hiring a contractor. The injury compensation, is that something on the website that tells you whether they have injury compensation for their workers?
Okay, I'm used to just yelling. I do it a lot at these events. Thank you for bearing with me. So yes, so when you look up the particular contractor's license on our website and you use our license check feature, so one of the options will be that it will show you that their workers' comp is in place. I believe it should show you at least the date that it started, if not the expiration date, but it'll typically, both with the bond and the workers' comp, I believe it shows you like what insurance company they have it through. So they'll give you basic information for you to be able to see that it's in place.
Okay, does that mean that if someone gets hurt on your property, that doesn't come out of your insurance, their injury comp takes care of that employee? Is that what that means?
So yes, so what that means is as long as they have the insurance in place, the homeowner is not liable and it goes through their insurance and their stuff. So the example I give is why it's important to check that they have it so the homeowner does not have to deal with that.
Great question. Any other questions? Great.
This is for the attorney. What do you cover about the wills?
That's a good question. We do only simple wills, so you would not own a home, for example, and minimal assets. But we do, it's a statutory simple will. Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, my question is related to not contractors. Do you have any comment? I've been trying to find a handyman forever, and I know you say they wouldn't be licensed. Do you have any thoughts about TaskRabbit or something like that? I mean, I tried them and did not have a good experience. So just where would you find a handyman?
Yeah, so thank you. That's a great question. So in general, because they're not, regulated by us, it's up to the consumer to find, reviews, good sources on their own through research. But what I can say is there are multiple places to check. I'm not personally super familiar specifically with TaskRabbit, but there's also Angie's List and tons of different places online. I know, I think this is probably going to be primarily for license, but some people still will tell me that they utilize the BBB, the Better Business Bureau, in terms of looking for contractors. So when it comes to handyman, I would recommend starting with like local community-based, like those review sites. It's totally separate from us, but things that are resources available. And also sometimes, I also recommend checking with those in your local communities, like your senior center, for those of you who may go to church, or a part of different communities where you have connections and can network and see like, hey, do you have sometimes people have a handyman they've been using for 30 years that they speak very highly of. So I hope that helps a bit.
Other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much for your attention today. If you don't mind, please, we do have evaluation forms here. If you could just fill it out, that would really help us. Anything that you learned about today's session, what you liked, what you didn't like, would be very helpful for us. So thank you again. Let's give another round of applause to our speakers. All right, thank you very much.